Welcome to the Symphony of Realities podcast, boldly taking you where no podcast has gone before. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation as you settle into your X, Y, and Z coordinates within time and space. Here are your hosts, Christopher Anatra and Sean Bond.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Symphony of Realities. Settle into your X, Y, and Z coordinates within space and time. And remember, in the words of Van Halen, everything is right now, is everything. Catch that magic moment right now. My name is Christopher Anatra. You know me as the quantum businessman. Today, we have a very special guest, and her name is Lauda Leon. And you know my co-host, Sean Bond. So Sean, say hello to everyone, and we'll turn it over to Lauda.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Bond, Psionic League YouTube, and.com. Going into the key for sovereignty today, I suppose. And I love that topic myself and how to become the peak of the internal order of the hierarchical self and get rid of every projection and hologram onto oneself that prevents them from having full free will and full will aligned with divine will, making all decisions, full control of your body, and then going outward in alignment with the universe and not dominating control or anything like that. Yeah, thank you all for coming, and let us all raise up in sovereignty. Sovereign Key, can you unlock this door for us about who you are and where people can find you and get to know you more?
Well said about our journey here into autonomy and sovereignty, because we all are in a reality machine. So the more we understand how that works, the more that we understand that our celestial template is perfectly sovereign. So we bring that in here. My website's Sovereign Key, YouTube Sovereign Key. And a little bit about myself is I came in paranormally, supernaturally, in the sense that the things that I was living were all very supernatural and paranormal, which is now starting to be shown and seen more and more and experienced by everyone as the matrix dismantles. So my journey into this all is coming from not having a fixed physics in reality, but being an anomaly in it. Thus, I ended up learning the keys, the celestial keys, to understanding how this sim world and reality machine works. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. And, you know, when I say paranormal, supernatural, I really mean the gamut of experiences, which is why I'm coming from that experience and understanding what we're in here, and also what I was shown prior to being born. So it's kind of a...
So you have remembrances of before you were born?
Oh, yeah.
Because I was going to ask you, when did this start for you? But it started a long time ago.
Long time ago.
Okay. So you brought up a term that I haven't heard before about the reality machine, which could be a great descriptive way to describe what this place is. So related to that, one of the things our show does a lot is we talk about Mandela effects, for example, and what could be causing them. What's your opinion about these Mandela effects and what our reality is? Just to kind of give us more insight.
Well, I do believe that this is a reality machine, and we're looking at an entire solar system that is actually a machine, essentially. The Mandela effect, I believe, came in when there was an extinction level event in our old universe that occurred because of the quantum technologies that were being utilized, like CERN, tipping the scale universally by introducing particles that were not in existence, because they were going way out of their bounds, playing with material in the universe that we should never have encountered. And I think at a certain point, I mean, you could see evidence of this happening in the 80s when they were already dealing with creating certain technologies of time travel, where things weren't going right and they were already starting to tip the scale. So the Philadelphia experiment is one example of that. And then you're going into them continuing this when you go into the remember, it was supposed to be Y2K, which I believe was another attempt to play with these quantum technologies. And then, of course, you have CERN, which is the huge problem, and the hundreds of hadron colliders that are spread throughout the realm.
It's over
And
1,000.
Or,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I believe that there was a tipping point that finally extinguished our universe, and we got pulled into the closest parallel universe when that happened. So that this is an extinction level event that happened to the old universe itself, sucking us into the next parallel closest universe, which from that point on, you really start seeing huge changes, even though it all looks the same, but with differences. But you start really seeing how many differences are here. You know, the list goes on to the Mandela effect, including that, you know, we're able to actually access more portals and dimensional openings in this version of the universe, probably as a result of what happened as well.
When would be the time arena window of us being pulled into another universe?
So I think by 2009, they were already starting to play with this, creating an imbalance. And then you could see that in 2009, it was already generating these alterations. But I think the larger Mandela effects that happened worldwide and in the nature of reality itself, even in time and space and how we feel it, and even how our bodies are. Many people actually remembered having children they never had in this version. And I mean, it's pretty huge, right? The changes that some have experienced. I believe that by I think it was March 2013 was the critical extinction event that happened. Now, if you look at the Julian calendar, 2012 wasn't really 2012 also, right? So we're off time by the Julian calendar because that was created to get everybody off of what the real time is.
Yeah, I think by
So
Julius Caesar.
right, when you look at the Mayan calendar, and we're saying 2012, that's not actually the real Julian 2012. So I think that there were critical changes to the Mandela when that occurred, because we did get shifted at that point to this new parallel universe. Prior to that, between 2009 and that in 2013 March, you could see the beginning. So the fabric was already tearing, the fabric of reality.
And I think that's too why things look the same, but when you start looking at the details, they're not. Even our bodies have changed, right? There's all these Mandela effect body changes with the heart and the kidneys and the vertebrae in the spine and the eye sockets behind the eyes, and like the list goes on and on. So like we literally were pushed into new bodies as well, to new reality.
Absolutely new bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the heart was on the left side, right? Because like everything was on the left side. So suddenly it's in the middle. The kidneys are in the wrong place. Like everything is shifted. I didn't even recognize when I was looking at like the medical diagrams of anatomy. I was like, whoa, that's not our bodies.
Yeah.
But yeah, new bodies. So the question is, are they all clone bodies, right? What are they?
Yeah. How does that part of the reality work? Exactly.
So
That's another like little crazy subject, but absolutely.
yeah. So that's how I think, as soon as the fabric started to tear, we started creating anomalies here and changes. And I think if you look at time and space in the way that time doesn't exist, you could say we were already shifted into the new universe. And so there was already a relationship between that time and space where a lot of these Mandelas started happening. But the event that did it actually just did it completely. And at that point, that became like the Mandela is actually the norm if you come from the old universe and if you're not a backdrop or NPC, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, and that's another like very interesting topic as well. Like, what are people walking around? Like, is there the concept of, how do you feel about the concept of, I'll break them into three categories, like the like higher level player characters. I give them a code name of dragons, regular player characters, and NPCs. So do you have any viewpoints about what they are, how they function in this reality?
Well, okay, so because this is a simulation, I think this version of the simulation is even much more of a simulacrum than our old universe. I mean, I still think we were in a holographic universe before, but this one is even like on steroids. So it is like literally a reality machine. So you have not only do you have backdrops or these non-player characters serving the backdrop reality, you know, that you're interacting with. So this is an interactive kind of simulation where you're getting a theater created for the reality you're living in. And that comes with, comes with beings or people that look real, seem real, they're software, they're programmed. And then you're getting like tiers of the control of, you've got your architects of the simulation or the simulacrum. You've got your tiers or your dragon at the top of what, you call it a dragon. I call it architects. I call it like, the computer programmers, whatever you want to call
Yeah,
that.
like the founders. Yeah, those type of concepts. Yes.
And then you're interacting a lot with the backdrop reality, including what your version of what you're seeing, because it's almost like you're being projected what to see. This theater is created, including the players in it and the backdrop that you're walking through.
So what do you think when Shakespeare said all the world is a stage and the men and women merely players?
Absolutely 100%. I
So
mean, and we're in this play, but we're not originally from here. This is not our reality, actually, but we are trapped here for now until this all comes down. So we are, I mean, he was correct about that, whoever Shakespeare was, because, I don't believe there was actually a Shakespeare. I believe he was an elite who had a pseudonym and, I mean, like a hidden hand.
yeah, isn't it funny too how the reality, whether it's in movies or TV shows, there's always that soft disclosure that seems like, oh, that can't be, that's impossible. But it's almost that it's a rule of the matrix, so to speak, that they have to tell you, even though it may sound like it's too fantastical, you still have to know. And a lot of people will discount it. But then I think a lot of people are waking up at the same time, being like, maybe this is like a matrix,
I think a lot of people are waking up to it, and it is by law, I mean, they could not disclose, but if they did that, karmically, it would be really bad for them. So they're just playing with the rules, but trying to get away with as much as they can.
Right.
Right? It's like what happened with the Watchers who wanted dominance of the world, right? The gods of the world, the Nephilim, the gods. They knew that the beings that were here had jurisdiction over this realm, and they were the guardians. So they had to find a way around it. They could just take over. So they did it genetically, right? They mated with women so that they could get the power through that law without breaking the law. That was a way around it. So I think they're always trying to go as far as they can go, but they're trying to keep to the law.
Right.
Their goal is ultimately find a way to rule and dominate, find a way to own the souls here and the reality. It's their reality machine, right? So, but work within the law, because if they don't, there will be repercussions that they don't want.
Sean, I feel like you want to say something or add something to the conversation.
I'll just like writing down stuff for questions.
Okay.
So if I heard this right, in your perception of the reality machine, is there an original pure reality machine, or like was it hijacked? What's your belief in the events of the hijacking, if it was, or was it always like corrupted? What do you think?
I don't think it, well, okay, so I think this inverse was created to be a reality machine. And I think the whole point of trapping the celestials, the originals, the primes, was that it had to mimic the original. So it had to be a perfect copy so that you couldn't tell the difference, and you had to find a way to get the prime creation here. So I don't think it's the original at all. This has been created to be a reality machine. But do I think it's as bad in the beginning of it? No, I think that it had more freedom. It had more of a space to create. And I think over time they hijacked through genetics, gene editing, creating literally reality machines using the solar system to trap everyone. And so, when you look at astrology, you look at these planets, these celestial bodies that have so much power influencing your life, but that's a part of the reality machine, and you're like born into that setup or that blueprint. I don't think it was as severe at the very beginning as it became. I think it was a progression to try and find the perfect containment system. Because whenever the primes would get too advanced and have too much power, there were resets done. With every reset, it's like they created a better technology, if you will, for the reality machine. And this is kind of how it's been going. And not only that, but creating different species and deleting species. And you see this happening, but that's a progression to create this like containment system where we are now. And how many civilizations had technology that is even much more advanced than CERN? And perhaps maybe they even knew how to use it in different ways. But now we have this, since the last reset, we've got this kind of consciousness that maybe they didn't really know what they were doing because they lost the original knowledge. And so they're playing with fire. They're playing with something that is outside of their ability to comprehend the consequences, as severe as it was. And that's, what extinguished the old universe, and we got pulled into the new one. So with every reset is a devolution, but that is a part of the reality machine as well, right?
Okay. Do you believe that this reality machine that we've been in has ever been a positive intention, or was it like having negative intention in its inception?
Well, I believe that the forces in origin were negative, but I do believe that a lot of the celestials that came in were positive, creating kind of a, an internal struggle between realities, right?
I'm just wondering what like if it's like how it is now, we observe it as like somewhat of a prison and trying to keep everyone in batteries right now. What a lot of the people I see incarnating now is to free people from that.
Right.
In the beginning, I'm wondering if you perceive it as have been being that.
No,
Why
not at the very
why
beginning.
did people show up?
No, I don't think it was quite like that at the very beginning. I think the whole point of it was to become like that. But I don't think it was like that at the very beginning. And you see evidence of these super heightened civilizations that had, well, let's look at Lemurians for one, right? These beings, these people had a lot of ability and powers that were working towards the good. And then look at the Atlantean timeline that came in, and that really solidified their technology, solidified the containment. But I don't believe it was always this severe. I believe that the agenda for the forces that created this inversion, this inverse, they were always in it for complete control and to actually harness the power that the primes and the celestials have. I think that was their intention from the beginning. I don't think that they were successful at the beginning because there were too many heightened celestials with a lot of their abilities intact. So, you know, more of a
Okay.
balance.
I love learning new people's, love learning people's cosmology and different types. What they tune into, it's all good fractal puzzles for, especially if we come all together and see what we have. Just like interviewing it. So don't take any of this
Oh
as,
yeah, yeah.
I'm just like, oh, there's interest. Okay. So celestials and prime creators, is that okay? Lovely. I use those terms too. So they were part of the inception. Who are all the beings in part of the inception? And are you are we talking about a chain that connects through Earth, the solar system, and the galaxy all being interconnected with the same creators, or like I'm wondering where do the dark come in, and why would the light work with the dark in the beginning?
Well, I think that there was a division that occurred at the beginning. Let's just look at the beginning of creation, okay?
Okay.
So I have a memory of a creator, god, like a goddess creator, she, who was pregnant because she was in love with creation when it first began. But she was out of balance because how she wanted to create, there was something that was out of balance with the creation itself. And maybe it was because it was her reflection, I'm not sure. But she she miscarried purposefully because she realized she was out of the will of, the father and the mother. I like to say the father, mother, creator, right? But they're one and the same. When creation happened, this polarity and duality split to experience creation. And when that happened, she became the creator, she became pregnant. But realizing it wasn't in the will of the father at that time is what I feel created the inverse, because the miscarriage she had, it couldn't die. Now, miscarriages, when they happen, the fetus is dead. But because she is creator herself, it couldn't die. But yet it was this mutated, you know, creature now, not fully formed. And that, I believe, is what created the inverse, because that miscarriage is the embodiment of rejection, abandonment, the desire and need so desperately for love, rage. It's pretty much the profile of this inverse that we're experiencing with a pathological population, right? It's kind of mimicking that story of that original consciousness, which may be the infection point. So I believe that is really a way that this inverse was created through something that was supposed to be dead but couldn't die because it came from creator, yet it was allowed to create a counterfeit, a copy version of the original that came from the mother and the father.
Okay, so what creation are you talking about specifically, along with the abortion? Are you talking about humanity, Earth, the solar
Everything that was, everything created that came from the original mother,
Earth, galaxy,
galaxy,
universe,
all
which,
the universe. That
okay,
we,
so this universe.
this universe.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Yeah.
So the
But
universal creation will point like the celestial prime creators that create
yeah,
universes. Would it be the prime creator of the universe that had a miscarriage, or like
it
a
would be the
bigger like
prime,
macroverse one?
no, it's the prime creator of this universe.
Okay.
I don't know about the other universes. I can only speak about this one.
So what ways would you define this universe as, in compare and contrast to other universes, good and bad?
Well, I think that this universe is probably the most extreme in duality, and the most extreme of the negative and the most extreme of the positive. I believe that this universe is literally the worst case scenario of the division that happened, and the best case scenario of the celestials and the primes overcoming it with the true template that is not the inverse or the inversion.
Okay. So if I was from another universe and I went to my travel firm or whatever, and they were like, "Oh, I need to go on a vacation for like a decade or a millennia, and like get away. This is boring." What if you were a travel agent or something and you were trying to display, "Oh, come to this universe. It's so nice. It's so much to do." What would you advertise to it? So why I would want to come here?
Well, it's not really anything that's advertised out there in the universe, because this is the place that is the hardest of all.
Oh,
So,
sign me up.
this is the place where if you really screw up bad,
I
they'll
actually love
send you
hard
down.
video games, so I'm not
Well,
kind of
they'll
being
send,
sarcastic, but not really.
yeah,
I actually would like to do.
but they'll send you down here
The
to,
hard players.
yeah, yeah. So if you screw up, let's say you are from a different universe, let's say you are even from a different galaxy, and you misuse your power, usually where you get sent is here. So this is not somewhere where anybody is going to tell you to go for an experience unless you really want to go the hard road of experiences in, the darkest of the dark into the light to learn, right? Most of the people that came in here under the premise that they were supposed to learn how to be creators because they could create anything here. That was the enticing point, right? And then, of course, it became like Sheol, which is like hell. So, if you did anything bad, you got sent here. This isn't a place where the universe sends you unless you really screwed up or unless you come in to help.
Like a volunteer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
definitely
what?
no, yeah, go down over there and see what it's like to be in the trap system of the reality machine. And, it might take you a few million years to get out.
Was the movie Shawshank Redemption? See if you can Shawshank Redemption your way out.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of beauty here. Like I say, it's a facsimile, it's a copy. There's a lot of beauty from the original version. So there is a,
So the original version, like what do you see in comparing and contrast before invasions?
well, before invasions, there is no negative force that takes and rapes and pillages and literally exploits every aspect of creation. It would be more balanced, more beautiful. Consciousness reflects that. This is like a place where we're going to, because nobody knows what that's like unless you have memory of where you came from outside of this. But this is the evolutionary point that we're going to learn. That we've been born into duality of extremes, and unfortunately the matrices create narratives for you to live in, which are really and can be extreme, and they hook into your subconscious, creating the worst of whatever it is that you fear, whatever it is that you think and believe. So, we don't know what it's like to be in a universe where you don't have this negative force. In this universe, you have duality, polarity, and that comes with the consciousness that is trapped in it. But outside of it, no, this is like you don't have the, first of all, if you look at the realm has been crushed, split. It's been like literally, it looks like a wreckage from all the devastation and the resets and, colossal. When we create negative things, we create negative consequences for the realm itself. And then there's a ricochet effect where the realm itself will have catastrophes happening as a result of what we've done to it, as a result of what we've done to each other. So would the real earth look as devastated as this realm? Like when I see the mountains and everything, everybody's like beautiful, but I'm like, oh my God, the amount of violence that has happened here, the amount of things that have happened that are so catastrophic to create the vestiges of what we see left and what we're living in is a result of all of that negative effect. So you wouldn't be seeing that necessarily. You would be seeing the more untainted version.
Okay. Just wondering, you said you have the ability to create anything here.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
That's what we're learning.
Yeah, and I agree.
Mhm.
I'm just like with the cosmology of that this was I use a similar concept to what you're describing to describe light realms, neutral, different types of concepts, realms, the tree of death, the Kilopath going into the hell realms, quarantine realms, and prison realms, for various purposes, to contain invaders and then resolve them over time. I have a lot of experience with these, and yeah, I can definitely confirm they exist, and this will go into higher macro scales too, including the antiverse and
Yeah.
universes that are taken over. I usually don't see a lot of the realms that are quarantine realms start as that, unless they're made strong and resilient and they don't give a shit about beauty or like authority within them. It's mostly to contain and prevent something from escaping.
Right.
Though a lot of realms have been corrupted, invaded, and taken over, and then they just had to turn it into that, and then have to deal with the fallout of the stolen authority, wounding, and the people that are trapped in there that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, so you said that there is the ability to create anything.
Mhm.
What does that come from? And why does this universe, how many universes have that you know
Well,
of? And
okay.
I'm sorry if there's a lot of
No,
questions,
no, that's okay.
but
But
I don't
um,
usually get somebody that has the
right.
level to answer these questions. So I like,
Yeah, that's okay. So you have to look at the origin point of what we are, what we really, really are when we were created, when we became creation. We became creators because we are creators. We're a reflection of the original creators. So I like to say we are flames of the all flame, right? That's in our nature from the get-go. Now, for us to know to be that we are creators, we're gonna want to learn how to use that in a body. We're gonna want to learn what it's like to use our celestial right in a manifested form. And that's kind of how the story started. So anywhere we went, we got to learn how to create. That was the whole point of creation. Experience your own ability to create and experience what creation is itself. So Now, when we got here, the mind wipes, you forget who you are, you forget what you have, you forget where you come from, and your unlimited eternal ability. So now you're in a setup, and the setup is a difficult one where the nature of survival pits you against even the bare elements. So now you are experiencing creation on a what I would call a low frequency in that density form. My question is, if you didn't get sucked into this inverse, would you be in that form as a manifested being in another realm where you're pitted against the bare elements for survival? I don't think so. I think that the nature of this reality in density, and just the kind of density it is, it's already hard just from the get-go. So I don't think it's like that in every realm. I think it's like that here.
Right. Yeah, I say that in my terms. This is not a vacation realm. You're not come here as the main purpose to be happy. It is nice, and if you're able to maintain that, that's a good indication how good you are playing the game and to getting into thriving. And it's good to do that anywhere, but if your main goal is that, then yeah, you're forgetting a lot. But so I agree.
So
cool.
And then your mind swiped, right? Which, you know, don't really believe that's natural either. Now you forget everything and you're just stuck here in a manifested dense body in a reality that is like pretty brutal and volatile. So now you're learning a different kind of creation that is reflective of the difficulties that are, you know, against you here. And because your mind swiped, what happens is you're now playing the role of the character in those difficulties that are pinned against you. And it's rooted in your subconscious because you no longer have conscious memory. So now you're starting to create through the subconscious. And now you're going to have to go through karma because that subconscious creation leads you to create karma. And then you're learning how to be a creator in like in the reverse way now to come out.
Yeah,
right?
with amnesia, it's literally the hardest game in the universe right now.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not like this in other places. And yeah, you know what you talked about, these reapers, I used to call them the reapers, the galaxial reapers, where they would go from realm to realm and they would just take over and destroy and like literally ruin worlds, entire worlds, and take over. And we see that happen a lot in this universe. And you know, this is where the Orion Wars come from and all of that. So like the history of this reality of this universe is like fraught with war and these invaders and these, you know, reavers, and it's just crazy. So then you land here.
Okay, so Sean, unless you had something else, I was going to like steer the conversation in a little bit of a different direction, but do you have another point you wanted to add?
I have a bunch, but I'll do a little.
I know you do. I know you do.
So what do you think is the importance of this universe and Earth as opposed to other places? Why would a bunch of beings want to come here in multiple ways? Do you think it's just prisoners and evil people and dark, like the big players in the dark, that would be a quarantine here? Why would the light come here?
Oh no, I think that these dark forces and beings are imprisoning the celestials and the primes because of their power. So
Did they do that? Did they take over and then with the power capture the celestials, or were the celestials already here?
I think the celestials were enticed to be here because this place is very unique, and but you got to remember, right? It's a counterfeit copy. And the whole premise of it is, hey, go there and create, go there and learn what it's like to be a creator. I think that was the enticement point at the beginning. And then I also think when the war started happening and these realms started being taken over, there are many souls that had to leave their world because they were being destroyed, and many of them ended up coming here. But I think that the uniqueness of this realm is because it has the genetic blueprint of every single type of celestial in the entire universe. I think here we have.
Beautiful. I agree with you. Why?
Why here?
Why does this place have every celestial blueprint?
I think because in origin, this was the place in origin where it was to learn to create. I think this was the place, the realm. Well, I mean, if you the actual universe of creation to learn to be a creator. So this, for some point, is a collecting point to experience that I think over time was taken over. And it may have been the intention of these dark forces to begin with to do that. But, I don't think it was there at the very beginning. I think at the very beginning it was, hey, like this is where you go. This is where you go to learn how to do everything. Because you're an unlimited being, but you need to learn how to do that when you have a body. It's not the same when you don't have the body. The whole point of this experience has to do with actually having a material body to learn how to use everything that is within you celestially.
Yeah, and I'd agree with you, and I just add on to for the listeners, so like in creator beings, creator gods, whatever you want to, like we have a limited language, so it's like, oh, what does that mean? And the difference, like, does that mean I can't create things outside this universe? No, I'd say there's degrees. The degree of this planet is higher in what you can create, because like you said, celestial blueprints, many different creator celestial gods, planets, universe, etc., that are of a high consciousness and authority come here, part of the game, part of the authority, part of the setup, make it resilient, no less capable of being destroyed or invaded through every little thing that happens. And when the dark takes over, they do the same, but for their dark purposes. And then having the effect to influence and create in pretty much all other games that have entered this one's game. So then you can then enter and create in everyone else's game that has entered this game while being in the fortress of this game, unable to be hugely attacked from a distance, let's say by other planets psychically messing with each other and what's on them through wars. And then having that resilience, but then the negative aspect of it, and then it being taken over and then turned into a prison and batteries. So there's some leeway with what it looks like after the matrix, the negative matrix, is taken off this planet. And then what are we going to? I don't want to take up this, so we can go full deep. I'd love to hear what Chris wanted to say, but we can go deeper.
I'll just say one more thing. In this game, really, to learn this, a negative force had to be created. It had to exist. So this is the whole purpose of even learning how to be the becoming of what you are celestially, or the return of that. But without that duality and the polarity, you're not going to learn. Just, it's the nature of the game.
Absolutely.
Did they go out of bounds and like really exploit their ability? Yeah, for sure.
Evil likes to cheat, and it's hard to get them to stop.
Exactly.
Unless they become immune to it, or a large amount of referees.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you wanted to change the subject, we can, but I got more. Feel free.
You guys are going, like, I have a whole list of things to talk about. You're going deep into this subject, but I thought maybe for the audience too, just to give them some other perspectives of some other types of things we could talk about. Unless there was something else, Sean, you could ask one more thing before I.
What's the subject that's gonna turn into another?
Well, I was thinking I wanted to find out the viewpoint of what is DNA.
Yeah.
And the concept of DNA activations, and just to get your opinion on that, Lauda.
Okay, so DNA to me is the most magical substance. It's the most absolutely metaphysical, just metaphysical, supernatural substance in the universe. It may look like it's fixed in a body, but it's actually your metaphysical template that can change at all times. Whatever your consciousness is will alter how your DNA is in the instant. So this is why it reflects your celestial blueprint with your consciousness and what you believe and what you create, because your DNA will just reflect that. You know, this is why there was so much effort in hacking the body, and why the Atlanteans and the Anunnaki and the Drak and the reptilians and the Greys and all these beings were geneticists, because they're master geneticists, knowing that they can alter your DNA to devolve you, or to create a hybrid, or to create all these variations that determine a change in who you are and what you are in your consciousness to reflect that. So there was a huge hacking that happened to the genome to be more of what they wanted, right? And then that consciousness can interface with the reality machine and this whole thing, because you will be a reflection of that. The more that we look, the more that we're growing outside of this universe and consciousness, which is what we're doing, the more that our DNA is reflecting that. So yeah, we're going through activations for sure. So this new universe we're creating is reflected in the new consciousness coming in, where people are able to actually harness new consciousness that hasn't been here before. And that in essence is, it's creating the new universe, even though the universe, that new universe is already created, because no time and space. Okay, but let me back up. So so we are being upgraded, thankfully, finally, because we've been
Right.
downgraded so badly through the series of resets to devolve, not just the body, but the mind and the frequency that is emitted by your DNA. So now we're finally getting help universally to be able to start waking up the strands that have been forced and hijacked to be dormant. So most people are functioning with 2 strands, 10 strands, 12 strands, 13 strands are completely dormant. When they say junk DNA, 99%, this is all where all your metaphysical celestial map is, where your abilities lie. Now they're starting to activate. So we're getting people that are now getting into the 3rd strand and bits and pieces of the other strands. As we are being activated universally by these energies coming in and these new particles, then our DNA is changing, which means that we're kind of like a stargate opening up to new ability and new awareness, new consciousness, which matches the new universe.
How do
So
you
when
think?
this one goes
Okay.
down, we are going to be ready physically, in body, in DNA, to reflect that and to be able to phase into the new one.
So that also goes with the concept that I hear people talk about, like the new Earth, so to speak, like a higher dimensional frequency bandwidth version of Earth.
Yeah. And as the activations happen, let's just say that the simulacrum will have a little bit more of a harder time creating a backdrop reality for you, because now your creative ability is going to start pushing against it, and you're going to start being able to metaphysically create new things.
How do you think the sun plays into all this?
The real one or the fake ones?
Well, I would say we'll start with the real one.
Well, I think that, you know, we are, okay, so we look at our bodies and we think that they're just like this, but we're actually an example of what the universe looks like itself. When you look at galaxies and you look at all the colors and all of the patterns that happen, that's within us.
Yeah, even looking into our own eyes, you can see
Yes.
a galaxy. Yeah.
Exactly. So the sun to me is a representation externally of what we are internally.
Mm.
So, macro, micro. We're the micro in the macro, but the macro is within us. So to me, the real sun is a reflection of us. It is the reflection. Everything comes from the sun. If you look at life, right? If you just simplify it, without light, there's only darkness, right? What happens with light? Well, you get creation, you get plants, you get life, you get life. So I think that what you see happening in the real sun is happening within us. Like all these new things that the sun is doing, which the scientists are baffling at, this is happening within us. What you see on the outside is what's happening on the inside. That's the change that is reflected in our DNA, which is it changes instantly. This is why, many masters would say just change how you relate to reality. Because if you're trapped in a state of mind, then this projection system is going to be reflective of that. So the change comes from within, literally. Get rid of the narratives. Understand this is a theater. And your DNA will reflect that. Your frequency output will change. That's why they're trying so hard to demonize our frequency and hit everything that they're doing with chemtrails and food and GMO and all this garbage all around us. Like literally we're swimming in a sea of their toxicity that they're creating, is to hack our DNA, essentially. And then if that is hacked, then we function in a frequency that matches that level of toxicity, which, kind of, if you look at it, it will not allow you to access certain things, which is what they're hoping for. It's not going to work because we are getting this help. And this help is superseding the hacking they're doing. So we're already overriding. That's why we're like the glitch in the matrix. We're literally the glitch in the matrix. So we're overriding already the frequencies that exist here because they're low. And the changes we're going through, those frequencies are or higher, right? This is what's going to cause the splitting of the two cells eventually.
Sean, do you want to comment about that or ask a question?
Sure. Okay, so going into that, I guess we can start with, what do you think humans are?
What do I think humans are? I think there's everything under the sun is a human. I think humans are celestials that come from all over the universe, and they are in manifested form here, but you're not necessarily a human. You are prime creation celestial, 100%. Your DNA is actually that. You are in an avatar.
In your cosmology, when did the human experiment start, along with Earth, or like the whole universe thing?
You mean the human experiment as in like the first manifested beings, or are you talking about the human experiments that have happened in this realm?
Well, I like that answer, but because I do read that we're older than this Earth, but with the whole miscarriage universe thing, with our human experiment, and how do those intersect?
Well, I think that as celestials, we have the blueprint of the mother and father of original creation in us. So we're actually of that, literally the highest prime creation in existence. In terms of the inverse and how everybody got sucked in here, do I believe that this Yaldabaoth created hierarchies? I think that's, the archons come from Yaldabaoth. Let's just say that this miscarriage is called Yaldabaoth. Okay, and so he creates a system here of all the different heavens and all the different lower astral realms and the powers and principalities that basically govern this universe, right? But are the celestials from here? No, I think the celestials were enticed to be here. So their origin point in a manifested body would probably be much lighter density in different realms before they even came here. This was just one, like a different version of creation experience. So this experience is much more dense than I think what celestials came from. That's why this experience is so brutal, because even just the body itself and the density of the body is so much different from the original celestial universe.
Okay. So the human experiment started, in your opinion, before getting sucked into a false matrix?
Well, I wouldn't call it an experiment in the real verse. I would just call it celestials creating and going from realm to realm, different galaxies to use their creation. I think coming in here is when you get into the experiment. I think that's when the experiments happened.
In your opinion, what is the experiment?
Well, the experiment would be, you come into a realm where they're capturing everybody, and, the experiment is what happened to the primes and the celestials in this inverse.
What's the opposite of the inverse purpose?
The real verse is
Yes,
just
I like that one. Real
there.
verse.
I believe that the whole purpose of the real verse is to actually be the most celestial that you can be in your prime creation with a body. So it's you truly having all of your powers ignited. It's you using, your entire brain capacity and not 3%. It's you creating worlds. It's you being able to have, like, literally access to all of your prime creation abilities, which are all metaphysical. I think in here, totally different. It's like, everything's shut down. Boom, boom, boom. And it's been a series of shutdowns ever since.
So would you say that we still have retain that purpose from the real verse of advanced high-level creator God, or whatever you want to, like learning from what Earth can do, or
Sure.
going from planet to planet, while being in a despite being in a harsh adversarial environment of an inverse?
Absolutely. And I think that's why they had to mind swipe everybody constantly here, is because these forces do know that that's innate in us, and that's what we do when we start remembering. So absolutely, we're reaching that goal irregardless of being in an inverse, irregardless of being in a black hole, irregardless of being, even in clone bodies. It doesn't matter. We are going to obtain that, because that is what we are.
Okay. What other purposes do you believe humanity has?
Well, it's a story of creation, which is a story of love, and it's a return of love, right? When you think of Alpha and Omega, essentially, yes, we're going to that evolutionary point of our celestial template in the extreme of its zenith ability, but that is also a return to our original being. But by completing the entire cycle of creation, it's like we have the story of the universe that we walked through and did, and that gets us to a new level as creators, I feel, for a completely different experience in a different universe.
What do we do when we free ourselves from the matrix and we do we destroy the matrix? Do we take over the matrix? Do we heal the matrix? Do we detach and phase it out completely? What is your
You're
verb
not gonna need
verb?
it. It's a phase out, right? Like it is in essence. Well, we're actually destroying the matrix. That's what we're doing, right? Because even by learning how to create and learning that you are your own sovereign being, and that you are first your celestial having experience, you're already breaking the matrix. You're already breaking the reality machine. Enough consciousness that wakes up to that, it already changes the fabric of how this reality machine can work. Eventually, yeah, it's not going to be even possible for this to exist. So,
And I like what you went into with the CERNs being in multiple places beyond what we know. This is something I tuned into a while ago and it was like weird. Don't hear anyone talking about it. And then I heard more people come up with a conclusion. Not that many though. So that's cool that you know about it. It's annoying. It's like giant magic circle wands that amplify techno-sorcerers, that amplify their intention, their belief, and their ability to steal energy from people and then hack into reality with constructs and then AI amplifying it. And then I see all these links between multiple other dominator species like the Draco and them taking over worlds and doing something similar, and then linking a grid of signaling AI, parasitic AI, that back and forth between each other, sharing pools of energy harvesting resources to put towards mega rituals that expand past planets, timelines, sometimes other realms and universe. This is in flux all the time because it's a war. So there's like decrease of these, increase of these at various times, and it's annoying to figure out that the dark doesn't have that many creative ideas, so they just keep doing this one. But like, how'd you find out about it? I got an attack by them. That's how I found out about it.
well, I just remote view and I just go in. So, I just see what I see. And the other thing I see too when I did that, when I went in, is that this this kind of technology is hooking in to some of the primes of the world here. So it's hooking into, like, if you want to look at primes as walking stargates.
Mm.
Okay, because the black projects, they have maps of what we're connected to celestially, like the higher up black projects. So this kind of technology is just hooking into that as well and utilizing it. So if you do a map of all the hadron colliders in this realm that we know of, the map starts looking kind of very interesting. But I think the map is also including a lot of the primes because it's going into us and utilizing those star maps.
Yeah, stealing information to gain more ground. Nice. Okay. So what do you think is the well, I'm gonna ask the same solution question for multiple of the things you brought up. What do you think the solution is in the timeline that you perceive of overcoming that problem with like the hadron fighters?
The solution?
Sure. We got one as an example, but we'll let you. I would like to hear yours.
Okay, so the solution to the hadron colliders look, okay, it's so,
The big
well, it's not
question.
human, it's not even humans that are in.
Yeah. So what do you think the solution would be to the CERN megagrid?
So this isn't something that we're going to solve by hoping it's going to go down and be dismantled. But I think that we have the power through our consciousness and our quantum abilities in a connected consciousness stream to completely take it down that way. Because our ability when we connect and the more that we're understanding what we are capable of doing, can literally be the force that causes something like that to be shut down. You know, it's a very tough job to do for one person, unless they're like super mega meta being, in which case you probably wouldn't be here necessarily. I think that's where we're going, but you know, in many ways, the people that are heading these projects are not human. They may look like they have a human body, but they're not human. And then they have a lot of human workers, you know, but this is not a human endeavor, if you will. And at that top level, they do know what they're doing. And I do believe it has something to do with them trying to create a much more synthetic prism reality that will save them from what's coming, from the dismantling of the matrices. And I think that's really the whole point of what they're trying to create, is a way out, a way to escape, and escape what's coming to them, right?
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So, and to add to the solution, like get super overpowered with technopathy and collapses, and yeah, physical, and so a lot of things hinge on the awakening anyway. So, do you think the matrix can be dismantled through just the awakening, or do you think we have to do more than this?
Well, awakening is part of the process of it, for sure, because as you awaken, it's not just awakening, right? When your DNA reflects that awakening and your strands start being activated, you have more access to abilities that have been dormant through, like, God knows how many thousands of lifetimes. So it activates your meta abilities, your capacity, your potential as that celestial. So you start having access to more as you awaken. So with that comes your powers, your abilities. I think this is all having to do with
I
this.
meant the mass shift in awakening, not just like individual, but yeah. I got what you're
It's the
saying.
same, right? And it has to do with the splitting of the cells, because what's being created is a new cell for that new universe, for that new earth, which, you know, is a part of where we're going to be realized in our abilities when that splitting occurs. Because what you're going to phase out when you start having too many there's a certain point of activations that consciousness and those strands that are lighting up, that are giving you back those gifts that you have as meta beings, that's going to phase you out of the older one, because you can't reside in a low frequency anymore. It's obsolete. You will phase out of it. So you are only here because you're in the midst of going through that metamorphosis. So you still have enough of those older frequencies that are lower as you're changing. But when that's completed, you're no longer going to have those lower frequencies. You're not going to be able to exist here. Like, what is here in those lower frequencies through that process of separation is going to mean that those people that are those lower frequencies are going to not hear you, not see you more and more. It's going to be cognitive dissonance. It's going to be like speaking in two totally different languages they're not going to understand. This is going to be like a process of separation. We're already seeing that.
Oh, like the bifurcation of the timeline concept, like the splitting of the two timelines.
Right.
You know, the golden age, the age of truth versus the age of chaos, you know, splitting.
Right. So your higher frequency, as it keeps getting higher and changing, your density changes. You begin to kind of start separating from this. What's down in the lower frequency will not register these higher frequencies, and vice versa.
I could feel that.
Yeah. Mm.
So you mentioned you use the term awakening, going through an awakening process. I heard you use the term remembering. So to me, it's like it's a natural thing too. So if you're in a deep sleep, you awaken first, and then you're like, whoa, where am I? And then you start remembering.
Right.
So is there anything else you'd want to add about this remembering process that I think a lot of us are going to start going through so we can be prepared?
Right. The nature of reality is not fixed. So what you've been given to interface with wants you to believe that reality here is fixed, like the nature of reality is a fixed physics. It's not. You're not. There is no fixed physics. So as soon as you start remembering who and what you are, you're going to remember that you have that unlimited nature that would be the anomaly to a realm that is trying to get you to believe in fixed physics. We only have fixed physics to be able to experience this level of reality. But in nature, it really isn't fixed at all. Once you start being that anomaly, you'll understand that, this is where you could do great things. This is where miracles happen. This is where you are the glitch. You are the anomaly. You are the paranormal, supernatural thing that happens, right? That has no physics explanation. We
Yeah,
actually are that.
almost like Neo in the movie The Matrix, when his power
Right.
started to come online. Yeah, exactly. Just like stop the bullets and be able to manipulate energy that way.
Well, and you see evidence of this being captured by people who are recording stuff like this on video because everybody's got a camera now. So you're seeing more and more of these anomalies.
True. I was going to ask you too, you mentioned about remote viewing.
Mm.
So a lot of the things that you've learned has been from things that you've remote viewed. And a few episodes ago, we had on the show as someone whose name was Lynn Buchanan, who was the character that the movie The Man Who Stares at Goats was based off of. And he was involved in the military's remote viewing program. So a lot of our viewers are familiar with that and the concept of remote viewing and how that works. So my question for you would be, what would you say that you can share publicly might have been one of the most unexpected things that you remote viewed? If you could think of anything.
Yeah. No, there was one time where there was a secret meeting that wasn't publicized anywhere that was taking place, and I happened to, bump into it.
Okay.
Let's just say. And when I got there, I realized, well, a little too late, but that they had a team of remote viewers who were like psychic, you know, psychic, weaponized people. So that can be dangerous.
Oh, and they probably observed you remote viewing. Ah, okay.
Hmm.
I gotcha.
Yeah. CERN also has that, by the way.
Yeah, like when we were speaking to Lynn Buchanan, he was also saying that literally every government in the world has teams of remote viewers, except for one country that I never heard of before, called San Marino, which is in Italy. It's next to the Vatican. Well, it's weird because the Vatican is, to me, it was always what's called a city-state.
Right.
And now in this timeline, it's called a city-state country. So the Vatican is like literally also considered a country, which is weird. There's another small country like that called San Marino. And he said they're the only ones that don't currently have a remote viewing program. So I'm sure all these different organizations have this, right? Governments, the CERNs,
Oh, yeah.
religions,
Huge, huge. I mean, this is big. This is like, they're not just remote viewers, though, right? These are weaponized remote viewers.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Sean,
So, and they will try and follow you back.
Track you back. Okay. So you
You have to
probably
be
learned to have, I'm sorry, say?
You have to be very smart how you get out of that.
Right.
So that was, yeah, that I'd have to say that was what I'm seeing in that front is pretty alarming, actually, because they're really good.
Was there anything that surprised you from a more like positive point of view? Like, oh, I didn't realize that. That's wonderful.
Like a good remote view?
Yeah.
Oh
Like,
yeah, like I've seen like I've seen these this group of people who are very involved in doing specific jobs to remove certain powers that are operating. And I mean, that was a real surprise because they're very effective. They're like a kind of mm, SWAT team, if you will, that are helping. Can't say much more about that.
okay, yeah, let's not blow their cover, but
But
Sean,
there are these teams that are, deployed. Hmm.
reminds me like the whole time cop concept too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Well, I
protect,
mean, I think all those movies are documentaries, really.
right? Exactly. All the soft disclosure that you can pull out of it. It seems like everything is the truth or a distortion of the truth, but the truth is still there. You can
Right.
like pick it apart and figure out what's
Exactly.
what.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sean, anything about this topic or anything else you'd want to add?
Yeah, there's a lot.
There always is, Sean. He
Yeah,
always has like so many questions.
so I wanted to go into your DNA programming ability in really, like turning on dormant strands. Like, what do you to like give a understanding for people what they can expect if they reach out for you for a session on that?
Well, I mean, a lot of the interfacing that we have here is to get people to live their stories, their theater, and to be trapped in the theater, right? So you have to find a way to get out of the theater and the stories and the narratives to start unlocking, because you may be, while you're getting all of this happening to you internally, metaphysically, you need to meet and match that yourself through changes to get out of the matrix stories. As long as you follow these stories, you're going to keep creating the same containment pattern. So you have to realize that you have to surrender, let it all go, and be open to creating a new reality, and putting your energy in maybe a consciousness that has nothing to do with the old consciousness, belief systems, programming, the things that you told yourself are real. These are the things that have to be let go of to start with, right? But I mean, everybody has unique things that must be excavated
Hmm.
to be able to understand how their theater got created. Without knowing what those are, it's really hard to undo the theater.
Okay. So what does it look like when somebody has gone through that process?
Well, I can't answer that briefly because that's, entails a lot of different things, and everybody's their own universe. So it's never going to be the same thing for everybody. That is unique onto what your creation story is and how you got there, how you created what you created, how you keep creating what you're creating, what the difference is between what's synthetically created and what you're doing subconsciously. Like, this is a really deep, yeah, and it's unique for everyone. So no session is the same, right? You're also a unique celestial and you have unique abilities. Not everybody has the same abilities either, right? So you have to take into account pretty much everything when you do a forensic excavation.
Okay. Removing the script, what other types of DNA programming activities have you come up against while diving deep into somebody's blueprints?
Well, there's a whole gamut of, just hacking points that have happened through other beings that have come in and spliced into the lineages, or they were born into inception points for other lineages to create hybrids. Like it is like the list goes on, right? This is like an infinite pool. So there's no simple answer because pretty much everything you can imagine in one way or another, everyone is or has experienced through many lifetimes. You just have to know what is prevalent. Like if somebody's lineage has been um, edited hugely because they really wanted them to have a lot of draconian reptilian DNA. So you can see in the lineage that that has happened, hacking points, editing points, genetic editing, right? To be able to inundate that lineage with more of that strain. So you'll see that certain things have happened in that lineage to create the theater they now live in. But that DNA hacking that happened can be undone. So these are the things that have to be understood. All that can be undone to return to your celestial template. It's not a fixed point. Nothing's fixed. Like I say, you're a metaphysical being. It's only fixed if you fix it yourself. Like if you stay fixed in it. So
Right.
yeah, that's
DNA purification. Yeah, I like that. So what do you do with the DNA hackers? Do you teach how the DNA hacks back into the abusers?
well, you don't have to hack them. You can just return yours to your original template. Trust me, the universe will like, accrue like they're dead for what they've done. So they will be responsible for what you don't have to go out there and be like, I'm going to get back at you. I'm going to hack you genetically. You could do that, but why would you create karma for you? You're just better off dealing with your universe, returning that to its original template, and then just focusing on that without having any, weird karma magnet drama that you create.
I don't mean like just hack them viciously out of like spite. I mean like universal aligned natural law, a reversal of their energy and force and stealing and programming of you back at them in a positive, bring them to goodness, they're a fractal of you ultimately kind of way.
I mean, the best way to do that is really just don't stay married to the story of what happened to you, but send love, and that the highest good reaches them so that they're able to receive the message so that they can change. If they don't really receive it and feel it, they're never going to change it. When you emit that to someone, no matter how badly they're hurting you, if you're coming from that good intention, like you're essentially letting them feel what that love and light is of correction. And that correction is going to be a reverberation, like a butterfly effect. So
Okay. What do you is your opinion on the awakening process for the mass collective?
well, I think it's something that's not stoppable. I think there was a real fine line that they had that they tried to exploit to stop it from happening. But once we got past that point, it's unstoppable. So, from this point on, we're going to be seeing a lot of surprises as we advance.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you were to look into your crystal ball, what do you see for the upcoming months and years? Like, how do you think things will evolve for humanity?
Well, I think there's a bifurcation effect because of that splitting of the cells, right?
Right.
Because we're no longer in the parallel of the same frequency. We're already getting out of that and already rising. And as we continue this evolution, we're going to keep rising above this lower frequency. So this cell is going to be seeing a lot of shit happening. But at the same time, we're going to be seeing a lot of incredible things happening that comes from this cell, which is bringing in a whole new awareness, consciousness, a way to live, a way to experience reality, a dissolution of the matrix, if you will, on this side. So you're going to see that bifurcation in completely opposite effects on both cells. And while we're still connected to this cell, even though we're rising out of it, we'll be witnessing what that is in this cell, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to impact us the same way as we create something new here. And we are creating something new.
Yeah, we might have no awareness of what's going on in the lower frequencies. Exactly. So I know for the sake of time, we're probably going to be like ending soon.
Yep.
So Sean, is there anything in conclusion you'd like to ask or mention or comment or tune into or whatever?
Sure. I guess two. What do you think keeps dormant aspects of DNA dormant?
Well, okay, so let's, everything that they're doing outside of us with the nanos and the chemtrails and the, elixirs and all that garbage, should you ever take that, which is insanity. But anyway, like basically, whatever they're doing to keep us dormant is also what we've allowed to keep us dormant. So whatever you've accepted is, reality to you, which are programs, basically programs of containment and various levels of imprisonment, really come from us, because they're hacking us any way they can to do that to our DNA to keep us lower. But if we buy that, then we get that created, then we become a reflection of that. If we don't buy it, then it's not going to work. Even chemtrails and even all of these effects will not work the way they want, because we will supersede it. We will override it. Whatever you purchase is what you get. So make sure you don't purchase any of this narrative, these programs of reality. That's the key. Just don't buy what they give you. Know that you're created to override it all and to supersede it into something that, like, it can't touch you. A frequency that rises above it, that lower frequency can't touch that higher one. So, you're kind of like your own prison guard, if you want to say it that way.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Arguing for our own self-defeating aspects. Okay. What do you think of the potential of humans?
I think the potential of humans is unlimited, because you are literally, the creation point of everything in existence. It's unlimited. You put the limitation on it, or you buy the limitation, right? So if you're in a reality that wants you to purchase what it gives you that you're limited to, then yeah, that's going to be what you live. But you're not limited. That's the whole point of what everybody is starting to get now. There's no limitation. And the more that we don't accept the old consciousness and what comes with it, aka what they tell you reality is, how they tell you to live reality, the more that you're going to be able to tap into that unlimited ability.
What do you do personally when you come up against limitation?
Well, I just clear it. I wipe it out. I clear the program. I rewrite what I want.
Yeah.
And in fact, I can say that the things that limit me the most are the things that I'll actually go out of my way to make sure I do. and excel at.
Yeah.
You know, if the program says, well, no, you can't do this, you're no good at this, they'll be like, oh, yes, I am.
What other services do you have on your website, and things that you have in your list of skills for people?
Well, there's many. There's a lot depending on what you want to do. If you want to access more of your memory, your celestial memory, you can go do that with an activation. You can go into forensic anomalous excavation, which I recommend for people because most people are not aware of these deeper, lower aspects that have been ruling their lives, and these programs and these things that are passed down through lineage and through their own experiences through lifetime after lifetime. So the forensic anomalous one I find is really good because it'll give you an understanding of what needs to be done and what's happened. Once you've got that, for a lot of people, they like the activation, they like the clearings that are done with the rewrites. You know, there's a lot of shifting that can happen quantumly. So there's just many different things, right? And somebody might come to me thinking they want one thing, but they actually need something else. I'll know what it is, right? When I connect to their spirit will tell me, no, that's not what they need. They actually need this.
And I'll put it in the link below, but what's the name of your website too, so everybody can find that?
Sovereignki.com.
That was easy.
K-A-I.
Key, K-A-I?
It's just K-I, sovereign,
Okay,
K-I,
okay.
.com. Yep.
Same
We
YouTube?
are like, you know, sovereign key. Key is energy, key is earth, key, we are the key. So.
Oh, now I know. Okay, all right.
But I know that there's a lot more questions that we haven't been able to get to today.
Yeah.
You want to ask maybe one more before?
You go for it, Chris?
Yeah, I'll go for it. So the concept of time, linear time versus time outside of this realm versus the concept of the cube, the 4D cube, which is called the hypercube or the tesseract. Do you have any feelings about the way time works, both within the matrix, so to speak, or this dream state that we're in, and outside of it, and how that could be evolving for us?
Well, I think the nature of these matrices as it is right now is time is connected to density here. So the specific density we're in determines how that linear timeline is expressed. As we move out of it, that relationship with time is going to change because it no longer matches that density. In this reality, it's very dense, and therefore time is very it feels very real. Okay, as we're growing out of this, you're starting to see parallel realities and loops, and you're starting to see a lot more realities coming in and out of this. So we're like being pulled out of this more now that we're actually changing our density with all the changes that are happening in this cell that is now lifted off from that old frequency, and we're getting into the newer one. But as this is sort of being dismantled and collapsed and where the glitches, we're starting to see all these other timelines coming in and out. And we're starting to have awareness more of the looping that we've been in.
Right.
So, you know, the best way to explain linear time in this density is part of what's created this containment system. But now we're seeing that we have access to many more timelines, many more options of even having that in awareness changes your trajectory even. So we're kind of going out of this it's in a way, we're starting to feel what it's like to get out of these matrices. Okay. Because really time doesn't exist. Time and space, past, present, future, here is simultaneous. Everything we experience in every parallel reality in the past, present, and future is actually happening in the now. But our concept of past, present, future is fixed through density.
Yeah. So, yeah. And the way that I see it too, these like remembering these time loops that we've been in, like deja vu, glitch in the matrix. And there was, I don't know if you saw this movie, it's from a while ago. It's called Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. And basically he lives the same day over and over again, but he's got the ability to remember, right, all the mistakes that he made.
Yeah.
And he keeps dying, and then he starts over and he dies again, and he gathers more information, and he gets farther and farther and farther. I almost feel like in the future we're going to be remembering these time loops that we're in, and people might even come up to us and remember us for doing something that we did, but we never did it in this time loop, but we did it in another time loop.
Right.
And they'll remember the other one. They'll be like, no, you got the wrong person. Be like, no, I know it was you. So yeah, I think those kind of things are going to start happening in the future.
I totally agree.
The unfolding of the cube, they call it, as like time begins to unfold for us.
Absolutely. Yep. I agree with that. Sean?
Yeah, I can go on more. Okay.
Well, don't go too deep, Sean.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Okay. What's a non-deep thing? Okay. Well, what do you think of DNA limits, blocks, enslavement, prisons, harvesting, and the different things put on in the different ways to hack into the DNA, and the force behind that? And do you have suggestions for people?
Okay, you got to really simplify that, because that was like 10 different.
Yeah, I was trying to go for a simpler one, but it's not as simple either.
Can you simplify the question?
Sure. What do you think of God, how do I simplify it? Do you suggest that people reach you for a session for dealing with DNA blocks, limits, enslavement, and all the different ways beings can hack in?
Absolutely.
Have a mentality for dealing with those beings that have done that?
And there's many different kinds, right? There's many different kinds of beings, and they put many different kinds of things on you and in you. So, you know, I mean, I've had implants removed, physical implants. I've had, you know, like, yes. So there are ways to deal with the different variations of things that are done to you. And each of them are unique for sure. And I do teach people to be able to maintain and do it themselves. Ultimately, I believe that you're meant to learn to do all these things on your own. Like,
Absolutely.
you just be equipped with the tools.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, with that said, I want to
reach you, Chris.
Oh, you can reach me at quantumbusinessman.com or on YouTube on the Quantum Businessman channel. And Sean, how can we reach you?
I'm Sean Bond, Psionic League, psionicleague.com, Psionic League YouTube. We're looking for clippers. So if you make little shorts of us and then send us a message with them, we'll pay you or talk to you or trade your abilities. Come spread this around, share it, comment below, smash that like button, click the notification bell, spread us around. Let us know if you want to see more of this content. If you'd like to have your sovereign keys come online more and open those doors of knowledge. And if you'd like us to have our sovereign key back on, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, leave your questions below. And Lauda Leon, thank you very much for spending these couple hours with us. We really appreciate it.
Fun.
Yeah, and sharing your point of view. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. Until next time.
Hey, just hang on, Chris.
Sure.
Sean, do I know you?
Oh, do you?
I definitely
Yes.
know you.
Yes.
Oh, you
Like
guys,
depends. I mean, the way we like would answer that question would be more than what people would say. Like, oh, did I meet you at college this one time, this lifetime? It's like, you mean this lifetime or another lifetime?
No, I mean, I definitely know you. And have we like crossed paths in this avatar lifetime?
Maybe we'll have to check on that.
It's just that,
Is it like
maybe
3D timeline events? We'd have to like look into that. Maybe that'd be cool.
yeah,
But
no,
other stuff, probably.
it's crazy.
it could be a time loop.
Could be.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll edit this part out because this might be interesting for everyone to hear this, but yeah, because I'll get that every once in a while. People will be like, I remember you, and I'm like, I never met you before.
And there's a huge deja vu here too, eh?
Oh, you're feeling the time glitch. Okay.
Yeah, it's really
It's happening, people. It's happening
so weird.
for sure.
All right.
All right, everybody.
How's it going?